Okay, David Stewart here. I made a video the other day about some of the changes in the social aspect of World of Warcraft that have happened, not just in Warlords of Draenor, but over the last couple of years. Thought I'd make a follow-up video to talk a little bit about how the social aspects were before and some of the emergent gameplay that happened socially because of the way that the game was arranged. And if you'll notice right now, I'm walking around in the very, very first big raid that they came out with, Molten Core, which was a 40-man raid. And prior to this raid, there were only 10 and 15-man raids with Cholomance and Blackrock Spire, both upper and lower, and Blackrock Depths. So 40-man raid, that was the first one that they came out with, and it changed the game forever in a bunch of ways. The first big way it changed the game was it allowed players, or it forced players to group up more than they ever had before. When you only had to organize around a 10-person encounter, it was quite a bit easier to come up with 10 people, and it was quite a bit easier to organize a guild so that you could do content like that. Once there was a 40-man encounter, all the guilds had to expand, so to speak, because you had to be able to organize 40 people showing up all at the same time to do all of the same content together and be focused on the same objective and be able to be successful at it. And that also meant excluding people who weren't going to do well and rewarding people who were going to do well. So a guild really began to fit that structure very well. A guild became not just a group of friends hanging out or a group of people that you liked to talk to in a particular chat channel and like to group up with on occasion, but it became an organization built around a single goal, which was to progress in raid content in World of Warcraft. That's what guilds really became towards the end of vanilla and through Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King. Once you get to Wrath of the Lich King and people can start doing all the raids as 10-mans, that starts to drop off a little bit. But definitely during Burning Crusade, the purpose of most guilds was to accomplish PvE content. The other purpose that a guild began to have is determining a way to distribute loot over time so that people could be geared up and get better at the game, make their characters better so you could continue to push raids. If everybody just came and got random items every week, it might take forever for the server as a whole to progress because you wouldn't have people gearing up within the same group. So you started to have emerge things like DKP systems. DKP stands for Dragon Kill Points. It's something that I believe started in EverQuest. And what it is it's a sort of a currency system. People save up points by completing content, then they spend it to get items, so that people have then a number of items appropriate to the amount of time they've spent in the raid, which is an important system because all the bosses in Molten Core here only dropped 2 pieces of loot each. There was a 40-man raid and there's 16 character slots. Takes quite a while to gear people out, and if people are not getting a piece of loot every so often, then they're going to end up not participating. So you had to make your guild bigger, and bigger guilds have lots of advantages besides just being able to do 40-man content. Bigger guilds can also do all the other content easier because you have a larger group of people to focus on. You also have more people that you can interact with socially, and the guild is usually big enough, at least it was in vanilla, that you could ignore people you didn't like and just hang out with people that you did like, which really made the guilds sort of function really well. With 40 people, you could end up having like 8 of each class sometimes, and you'd have things like class leaders. You'd have people who were the leader of just that class and taught people how to play that class. So you had lots of subdivisions that emerged from it. And then with DKP, you'd be able to gear up the raid, and then you'd go from one raid to the next raid to the next raid. And that's some of the emergent behavior that happened. Other things that began to happen at the same time is people began to get this gear in order to go PvP, because there wasn't... the PvP system did reward you with gear, but it was the same as PvE gear. This is before the days of Resilience. Now Resilience is gone, which is, in my opinion, a good thing, but before the days of Resilience and Arenas, you had to do lots of battlegrounds to get PvP gear, and took a while because queue times were real as well. So a lot of people would PvE in order to go kill people in PvP more efficiently, which is an interesting sort of emergent thing. Now people would think that it's really crazy that people would go do raids in order to just go kill people in a battleground for just the sheer joy of killing people, but that's the behavior that emerged. As Burning Crusade happened, you went from 40-man guilds to 25-man, or you went from 40-man raids to 25-man raids, being the main progression size, and guilds shrank accordingly. Guilds went from really monstrous, sometimes 80 people having 2 40-man raids down to 30 people, 25-man raid, and a couple of extra alts in case somebody couldn't show up on a given day. That's not very many people. And then once Wrath of the Lich King happened, guilds shrank again because people could do 10-man content. Now they shrank back down to just being 10 or 15 people, 20 people that could do 10-man raids a couple nights a week. So as time has gone on, you have moved away from these really big social organizations that are huge guilds dedicated to 40-man raids, and have moved towards these smaller and smaller organizations. In addition, after Wrath of the Lich King, I think towards the end of Wrath of the Lich King, they started introducing auto-queuing for groups, and then later Raid Finder, and now they have things like where you can raid with somebody who's not even on your server, which has made the need to create and organize guilds almost irrelevant, especially compared to the original version of the game. In vanilla, you had to have a guild, and you tried very hard to get into a good guild so that you could raid and get new gear and you could experience progression content. Now the whole need to organize other people, to get along with other people, is not really there. So this whole emergent gameplay of being in a guild full of people that you liked and were dedicated to, and you felt proud of your guild for what they've accomplished, that's sort of gone by the wayside, especially with flex raids, where you now can experience all the content in a variety of difficulty levels to suit your tastes. The idea of being in a guild that has killed Nefarian, or has killed Rag, or has killed Cthulhu is not quite as exciting or interesting to people as it used to be. Wow, Rag died quick. So that's one of the things that sort of emerged. Yes, Perdition's Blade. Oh, that is a cool looking sword. There it is. For you Hearthstone players, that's what it looks like in game. So very happy to see that. Nothing else I need, I think. Okay. So, yeah. I don't need to ramble on any more about that, but basically, once you have eliminated the need to organize large groups of people, you sort of see the guild wither on the vine. The guild just sort of disappears from the framework that was World of Warcraft. The guild is not quite as relevant as it used to be. Now it's like a convenience thing, so you can play with people that you know, I suppose, but you no longer have to have a guild in order to do PvE or PvP content. You no longer have to have a guild in order to organize these big things. You can just be solo. You could be in a guild of a very small group of people and still be able to experience most of the game. Whether this is bad or good, I won't say. Although I really enjoyed having big guilds. It made it really easy for me to find lots of people I liked. Some of the best friends I've made in this game, I made in my guilds, and I ran a couple of guilds. So for me, the idea of letting go, the idea like I don't really need a guild anymore, is kind of weird to me. But for good or ill, that's the way that it's gone. I don't need bows and arrows anymore. Anyway, I guess that's all I have to say about that. Just watching some changes that have happened in the game. I kind of miss the old big guilds. If I pursue another game, I might like to look at a game that has big guilds that are dedicated to PvE again, because that was a fun social experience. Getting into a guild, getting to know people, working with a team, working on large-scale goals. A lot of that stuff has become very individualized in WoW, and that emergent gameplay, the social aspect, the need to interact with people on a social level in World of Warcraft to accomplish things. And that's really became its own reward, even though it was the game necessitated it. is kind of gone. So, by the way, emergent gameplay is a term that's used a lot to indicate it wasn't designed, it happened. So they didn't necessarily design that guilds should be a certain size or should be big. They created content that was a certain size, and then the players figured out how to organize themselves around it. So that's what emerged, big guilds, and guilds have gotten smaller over the years, obviously. So anyway, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you're on stream, I'm going to interrupt the stream, and then I'm going to get back to streaming probably some PvP or something. And I really appreciate you watching. If this is up on my regular YouTube channel, I apologize that this isn't a guitar video. I'm probably going to have another gaming channel that I'll open up just to talk about some of these concepts and ramble about this and that. So have a great one, and I really appreciate you watching.